All right, great. Welcome everybody to our third presentation from our travel grant program for 2024. Debra Sweetman will be talking about her recent trip to Cornwall, where she hiked the path and had other great adventures. Like I said, we've had two other presenters and travel grant awardees that have told us about their adventures, and this is the last one for 2024. This was a pilot program year for us for the travel grant. We'd never done it before. And the board recently, or the officers recently met and agreed to sponsor another travel grant for 2025. So we'll meet again as a collection of officers in a couple weeks, kind of decide the details of that and let our membership know about the application process and what we're planning for it for next year. So that's a little bit up in the air, but we are planning to do it. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Debra to introduce herself and share the experience from her recent travels with us.
Still says sharing's not turned on.
I'll make you the host now. I forgot to do that, Debra. But go ahead and start talking.
Oh,
I'll make.
I always assume it's me. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Share. Okay, everybody can see that?
I can see it.
Good. Okay, so what my adventure was, and I really want to thank the CAHS for this wonderful opportunity. And I'll thank them every 5 minutes through this, except that I'll eat up too much time because Johnny has to get going on something today. So what I did was three things. I did, first of all, the Saints Way, which runs from Padstow to Fowey. And it has, as you can see on the map, two branches starting at about Hellman's Tor. There's the eastern leg and there's the western leg. So the eastern leg runs through Llanlivery and the western leg runs through the Luxillian Valley. And the next thing I did, besides doing both of those, is, okay, where on earth? I'm not techie, people. I was going to have Deb Tink come here just to help me, but I thought I could muddle through. This is a map that the trail isn't shown on it, but you can see Fowey towards the left, and you can see Plymouth on almost the extreme right. And that's the Southwest Coastal Trail that I took, that portion. Then I didn't think I'd have to close every one. I thought I'd be able to just cursor through. And I'm sure there's some way I can do that, but I don't know how. Okay, the third thing that I did was what's called the Hall Walk. This is a 4-mile walk that starts in Fowey, and you have to take the ferry across to Polruan, which is right across the river, and walk the 4 miles. Then at the end, you have to take the ferry back to Fowey at Badinnick, where the Daphne du Maurier home is. So basically, that's an overview of what I did. And now I'll get into it. Oh, right. Okay, so the first thing I started on was the Saints Way, and I'm really glad I broke it into 3 chunks. The eastern leg broke it into 3 chunks because I had so many mess ups on day 1 that I needed that time to get my get my bearings and everything like that, just get all the bugs ironed out. So the Saints Way is approximately 27 miles long, depending on what you read online. I broke it up by going Padstow to Withiel, and then I did Withiel to Llanivet, and then I did Llanivet to Fowey. And that worked really well for me. Actually, Llanivet to Llanlivery. So that worked really well for me. The major thing that I would recommend if anybody's ever going to do this is if you don't have location tracking, an app that has location tracking, don't do this. I mean, I'm sure there's some people who are somehow more savvy than me, which it doesn't say much. But I found that if I didn't have my phone in front of me, every single step I took, you can't rely on the signs. And the major reason you can't rely on the signs is the Cornish Council, I read subsequently, is trying to move some portions of the Saints Way, to make it easier or whatever they're trying to do, like easier to find or, overcome some kind of obstacle. The problem is they haven't removed all the old signage and they haven't put up all the new signage. So in some places, the sign is on a piece of paper. Well, wind, rain, that doesn't work. Not for me anyway. So anyway, things to watch out for. Oh, there's my little thing. Good. Uh-oh. So the first thing I stayed at Saint Bené's Abbey in Llanivet. The other smart thing I did, because I didn't do very many smart things, was to stay there for 3 nights. That allowed me not to have to contend with my suitcase every morning when I was just getting, as I said, my feet wet, figuring out everything else I had to do. So it was lovely. I recommend it to anybody. It's right in Llanivet, and it's about the halfway point on the Saints Way. And it was built in the 1400s, so I was very happy with that because it would have been there when my ancestors lived in Llanivet. And if I say any names wrong, please tell me. So at the Abbey, this is the bell tower. That's right in behind, and you can climb up the bell tower. The grounds are really beautiful. This is a family-run business, and as I said, I recommend it to anybody because, well, Jenny was fantastic. So this is the Llanivet Inn, on the left, and you can see it has an outdoor patio. It has it's only a pub. It doesn't have accommodation, and it's been operating as a pub since the 18th century. So again, it would have been there when my ancestors were there. So now I started trekking the day after I arrived. This is the view from the trail in Padstow of Padstow and the Camel River. So the first thing you do when you're in Padstow is go up a hill. There's an obelisk that's not on the trail. And the first thing I did was get completely confused because, as I said, there's two trails. And there was a guy there who showed me the trail, but he showed me the wrong trail. It's the old trail. So Ordnance Survey location tracking was fantastic. It was a godsend. So, but I wasted a lot of time because I don't normally have my nose in my phone. So, what I did, the first thing was when I got to Withiel, this is one of my ancestral churches, St. Clement, in Withiel, and it's just beautiful. You can tell it's ancient. I forgot to mention that you can get a passport when you take the Saints Way, and you can at every stop, which are 99% of them are churches, you could get a stamp on the passport to prove that you've been at every single one. I didn't do that because I figured I had enough things to worry about than worrying about papers and stamps and things like that. Um, the other thing I didn't mention is that the eastern leg from Padstow to Fowey is, oh, I did say that, it's about 27 miles long. And the origin of this was probably for traders and drovers and local people just getting from place to place. And that at a later stage, the Christian missionaries were using it, hence the name the Saints Way. This is a view from the Saints Way looking back at Withiel. I hope the color really shows because this was a sunny day. It turned into a sunny day, and this picture's just gorgeous. I loved it. In real life, of course, it was better. Now, this is what's the name of the church in Lenivet? Lenivet. It is something. Jeez. Anyway, I can't find it on my notes because I'm blind. Anyway, this is the church in Lenivet, and it's right around the corner from the pub, and it's right around the corner from the spa. And Spar, sorry, I'm starting to talk like Deb Tink. Further along the Saints Way, I came to, this is the sign saying Helmentor. You could see it in the distance. This is approximately where the western leg breaks off. If and fewer people do the western leg. And so you'll see even fewer people on it. When you're hiking, you'll hardly see anybody. The other thing is, people don't know where the Saints Way is. The locals don't. I did a test when I was in the Lenivet Inn, and I asked the guys who worked there, I said, do you know where the Saints Way is? And it was, literally a building away from them. One of them did, and one of them didn't know. So it doesn't have enough marketing. So this is near the top of Helmentor. So Helmentor is 686 feet high. And this is the view from the top of Helmentor. Supposedly, on a clear day, you can see the Atlantic coast to the north and the English Channel to the south. I don't know how they would know that because I'm not sure there is ever a clear day there. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that my outdoor voice? I didn't get many. So this part of the trip was good. So this is the church in Llanlivre, Saint Cyriacus and Saint Julita. That was it. And it's very handy to the pub there too. It's a very small village. Another shot of the church and the cemetery. What I liked about this church is you can sleep overnight in the churches. They do have small cushions there for people to sit on, the parishioners. This one not only had a sink at the back, and I think it had a coffee maker and a few things more than a church would normally have. But it had a little basket with things you might need as a hiker, including a dry pair of socks. So I thought that was pretty good. And it had a bottle of water. So I left the socks because there was no getting mine. Actually, at that point, my socks were still okay.
Debra, I'm going to reclaim host for just a moment because I think we might have some people trying to get in that need to be admitted. Then I'll give it back to you, okay? I think we got more people coming in. Sorry for those of you who were in the lobby for a bit. We it took us a minute to get you in. And Deb has been presenting about her hike on the Saints Way. I'm going to make her host again. And now you can share your screen again, Deb. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, thank you. So this is the Crown Inn. You could see the church at Lanlivery sticking out above at the back.
No.
The pub itself is very, very ancient. But the accommodations are in separate buildings that are, I don't know how old they are, but they're pretty darn new. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to look at my notes when I'm blind. So this is hiking the next day, looking back at Lenivet Church. You can tell that this is when the rain started, for really, really started. One thing I did was I didn't always stay. Oh, I did stay at the Crown Inn in Lanlivery. I didn't always stay close along the trail because I wanted to stay in some of my ancestral towns. One of them is Lostwithiel. So I stayed there one night. This is St. Bartholomew's Church there. A couple more views of it. And this Lostwithiel is just the prettiest town. It is so nice. The River Fowey runs through it. This is a bridge going over the River Fowey. And I had to wait quite a while for people to for me to get a better picture. But each time there's a zigzag, people just kind of stand there and talk. There's enough room people were fishing. Off to the side, below, there's a little beach and kids are playing in the water. It's it was very nice. So this is the Duchy Palace in Lostwithiel. By the time I got there, it was too late at night for that to be open. So I didn't get to go in. But what the Duchy Palace is Lostwithiel is a stannery town, was a stannery town. And the stannery town is where tin was assessed, coined, and sold. So that's what that's about. This is the museum. Again, it was closed. And again, that building's old. It would have been there when my ancestors were there. So I was just happy just to see the outside, knowing that I have to go back to see the inside. This is the Royal Oak pub where I stayed. It opened in 1875 as a pub. Well, no, not as a pub. First as a school. Other than that, I couldn't find anything about its history. So at this point, I jumped over I started doing because I did the eastern leg, I started doing the Southwest Coastal Trail. And so again, here's the map. I'm going from Fowey to Plymouth. I started on day one of the Southwest Coastal Path at Looe. And this is just a picture from the trail of Looe Island, which you can see from the majority of that section, like a very long section of the trail. So it's you feel like you're not getting anywhere because you keep seeing the island. This is a picture not far from Looe, carrying on. I'm going the quote unquote wrong way on the Southwest Coastal Path. Most people travel going from Bude, going to Plymouth, so down to Land's End and then up to Plymouth. I didn't always do that. I recommend you do it the way they want you to. I didn't have any real trouble, but I think some of the signage and things, not that you need it, you want water on correct side of you. It's, you know, it's much easier than the Saints Way in that regard, but you want to, um, you know, have better signage and, you know, sometimes the styles and things like that, I think are set up for you to go the other way. This is Great Trethewey Manor. I stayed here in Lisgard, again, not on the trail. So one of this, and this was something I knew was going to be a silly, cumbersome thing to do, is keep jumping off the trail for my accommodation. But I wanted to do it that way because I wanted to see these other towns and get a feel for them. This actually isn't right in Lisgard, it's outside of it, and they have you know, guinea fowl and peacocks walking around. And yes, I had guinea fowl for dinner that night. And there was one at the French doors peering in, looking at me accusingly. I felt guilty, but that's about it. So the next day I got on my way again. And this day, so the day before I did from Loo to Polruan. Polruan is the town that's right across from Fowey on the river. Sorry, I'd be a lot smoother if I could actually read my notes but I'm blind. So you're just stuck with me. So this is me going off the path somewhat, going down closer to the water's edge. I don't know that I did it on purpose. I think it was a time when I was like, well, this looks like a path. And it was a path to somebody's little tiny cottage. That was cute as anything. So worth it. So this section, I'm going from Port Wrinkle to Loo, and this is St. Michael's Chapel, not to be confused with not to be confused with St. Michael's Mount. This is just a teeny tiny little chapel. And it stopped raining at that point, but for a minute. And but the winds, I had a heck of a time keeping my footing, even though that looks very easy to walk up that hill. It's just the footing. I was being blown over. So this is inside the little chapel, and this is the view. This is also some sort of a fortification as well. I don't know when they added that. I'm sure I read it, but that doesn't mean that that I know. That's a view looking back at St. Michael's Chapel. Then I toddled along and I finally got to Mount Edgecombe, which is quite near the ferry that you have to take to get across. The Kreml ferry goes across to Plymouth. It was built between 1547 and 1553, but it was completely gutted in World War II, and then they restored it. So here's me finally arriving in Plymouth, which of course is in Devon, but I wanted to do that too because I have Mayflower ancestry. This is the Admiral McBride. I stayed there. The rooms are tiny. When I flushed my toilet, the shower gurgled. It was it was fine. I wanted to really to stay there because first of all, it overlooks the harbor, so the view is beautiful. But second of all, it overlooks the Mayflower Steps, which are not the Mayflower Steps. They're called the Mayflower Steps because in the early 1900s, they made those for the touristas. The real Mayflower Steps are most likely under the women's washroom in the Admiral McBride, which is why I had to stay there. So now that I made it from Fowey to Plymouth along the Southwest Coastal Trail. I went back to the Saints Way, and I want to do the Western leg. So I had to get back to Helmand-Tor, and then I'm going to end up in Fowey again. So I got to know Fowey fairly well. So, oh, I gave the wrong name for the church in Llanlivry, because this is Saint Cyriacus and Saint Gelida Church, and it's in Luxullian. I love these pictures where it looks like it's not raining. It was. I mean, it wasn't the end of the world at that point, but some of the Southwest Coastal Trail, it was nasty. This is a picture of the Luxullian Valley. It was just beautiful, so lush. This is the Trefry Viaduct, which was built and it was built in order for mineral train. The guy who built it, it was a guy named Austin who changed his name to Trefry, and he was in the mining business, so he built it so he can get minerals where, for the railroad. So this is where, because I made it to Fowey, then, well, I didn't actually, I lied. I just lied. I missed one of my fun stories. One of my fun stories is as I was walking on the Western leg, because when I was at the Admiral McBride, I was charging my phone and I knew to flip the switch to get the power on, but then I'd go out and I'd do something. And every time I was flipping the switch, or so I thought, the last time I flipped the switch on the electrical thing to charge my phone, it must not have. So in the morning when I got up, I had about 50% power in my phone. When I was hiking the Saints Way that day, as I told you, you need your nose in the phone nonstop. My phone crapped out. It was pouring rain. So I couldn't by then I had a regular a taxi guy. The problem with getting taxis in Cornwall, at least in that area, is they all do school runs. So in the morning, they're taking kids to school, and mid-afternoon, they're driving kids home from school. So you can't. So shout out to the guy at Bedelva Tire, because I finally got out to the road and I went to Bedelva Tire, and he says, "Oh, Eat Project is near here. Go there and you can get a bus." And then so I got a shuttle bus over to the real bus, the intercity bus, had to go to St. Austell because there's no bus to Fowey. And that was where I was supposed to be meeting my taxi driver, because that's where I was supposed to have ended up. But I could not carry on because I had no idea where I was anymore. So I was going to cut my losses. So the next day, I didn't have enough time to plan, to figure out where I had left off. So, like figure out where on the ground I had left off, because, location tracking wasn't telling me that. So anyway, I decided the easiest thing to do was to switch and do the whole walk that day, so that night I could check into where I had my fiasco on the western leg of the Saints Way. So true to form, I did the whole walk backwards. So I started at Budinnick, took the ferry, and then so I did everything backwards. I don't think there's a real problem with that. So then you take the ferry across at the end into Fowey. The good thing about taking it the way I did, finally I got an advantage, is the hill out in Polruan going the other direction is quite steep. And it's, it's a street, it's asphalt, so it's not difficult, but it's quite steep. I got to come down it instead of having to go up it. So that was a bonus. So, okay, there I am. This is the view of Foy from the hall walk. And this one is from the ferry going across. So again, of Foy. So now I got my what together, figured out where I had cut off from the trail. So now I'm back on the Saints Way and I'm toddling along and I get to Twyer. In Cornish, apparently it's Twyer, but all the locals say Tywardreath. And this is the church there. And I'm going in and I'm thinking, oh, this is wonderful. It's a bright, sunny day. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm inside the church. It's St. Andrew's Church. And I'm taking pictures and I'm doing my thing. And I all of a sudden hear this crazy, crazy amount of noise on the roof. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? And I go to the doors, and the caretaker has slipped in. It was raining so hard. It was just so loud. It was crazy. So I'm like, no, it was so sunny. This is crazy. So the rest of the day, it poured. So carrying along the western leg, this is near Pulcaris Beach. And if you don't want to do the whole Saints Way, a lot of people do the Saints Way from Foy to Pulcaris Beach, and there's also the Southwest Coastal Path will get you around there near enough. So, but again, I'm seeing even fewer people on the western leg because fewer people know that there is a western leg. Um, but the other, um, I should have said this earlier. When I was on the eastern leg and I thought I was, when I was trying to decide whether I was lost or not, if you were going through a farmer's field, and there's a lot of farmer's fields that you're going through, the terrain is really, really varied. If the sheep and the cows were skittish, you were in the wrong place. You'd gone off the trail. So I took that knowledge with me to the western leg of the Saints Way. Not true. The Saints Way, the western leg has so few people going on it that the sheep and the cows are skittish no matter where you are. So if they're running up to you and they want you to pet them or whatever, which one time it was hysterical because there were so many that came running at me that I could see where I was supposed to go to get to the next gate to get through their pasture, but I couldn't get there. So adventures with cows. So I finally made it to Foy Blockhouse, which is in Ready Money Cove in Foy. So if you were just hiking in and around Foy, you'd definitely see that. Across the river is Polruan Blockhouse, and they both together protected the harbor back in the day. So then I had some time. I went to the Eden Project because John Webb told me I had to go to the Eden Project. This is basically, it's a reclaimed clay pit, China clay pit, that it's mostly designed for kids, school groups and so on, to educate them about, what Australia might look like or Africa might look like and so on and so forth. They have displays outside as well as within each of the domes. So worth seeing. So this is, since I was by now staying in Fowey, this is on the left is the Polruan blockhouse, and on the right is the Fowey blockhouse. This picture is taken from the Harbor House Hotel, which I didn't take a picture of because it's not old enough for me to think it matters. And no, I didn't have enough money to stay there, but I did eat there because of its view. When I stayed in Foy, I stayed at the Galleon and I stayed at the King of Prussia. Um, every place in Foy has an incredible number of stairs, the old ones. So if your suitcase is as heavy as mine was because I bought so many books, then it's a problem. This is a close-up of the Polruan blockhouse. So then I went on to Lanson, or in English you say Lanson, or Lanson. I forget. Deb, it's Lanson, yes. And in Cornish you'd say Lanson. This is the Eagle House Hotel. Highly recommended. It would have been there at the relevant time of my ancestors, and you can see that the architecture is incredibly beautiful and different. Its other claim to fame is it is immediately beside Lanson Castle. So you're good. You just, speaking of the castle, this, as it says, is a relic from the original assize wall. That's right inside one of the gates, the gate that's at the Eagle House Hotel. And different views of the castle. They have a museum there that had displays that told you all kinds of stuff. This is a view from the castle. This is the south gate. And then you pop out the south gate and you're in a completely other area of town. So it you can get very confused as to where you are until you know that it's just a big circle. Walking around in that circle, I hit St. Mary Magdalene Church, which is huge and beautiful. There's 3 major churches in Lanson. This one I found really interesting. Because I'll go back to this picture. At this end, you think of churches as rectangular, but its frontage is only about 20 feet on that street at that side. And then it jogs back and kind of angles and does all kinds of weird things. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting because when it's so old, I didn't understand why it wouldn't be, why would it have to work around something else? And then this is the inside of the Eagle House Hotel, just showing you going up the stairs. And they have a restaurant and a more casual bar area. Again, highly recommended. I loved everywhere I stayed. So, and that actually is all the pictures, mostly because I forgot to say most of what I was going to say. But maybe somebody will jog me if you have any questions, jog my memory.
Deborah, that was great. Thanks for sharing those adventures. And they say that not all who wander are lost, but it looks like you were lost at times.
Definitely. I had at one point on day 1, which was, before I got the location tracking, I was actually fine, but I got to some A road, like A28 or whatever. And I thought, they can't possibly expect me to cross this. This is crazy. So I thought I must be wrong. And I didn't see any sign. Like I walked across and I ran across and I couldn't see any signage telling me what to do. And I thought, okay, okay. So I went back and I started walking along the road where I had been and thinking I must have missed some little sign that told me to go off into a farmer's field or something. Well, there was a garbage truck, and I decided to ask the guy driving the garbage truck whether he knew. He knew nothing, but he was willing to drive me back to the other end of the road where, there was definite signage. So I emailed my son that night and I said, well, I had a ride with John, the garbage man. It wasn't Jerry. And my son, who's only 20, so I'm surprised he recognized this reference, said, well, if it had been Jerry, it would have been a bright white sports car. So that gave me a good laugh that night when I was soaking wet again, having been lost.
I'll say from my experience hiking the Southwest Coast Path on the north side, I use my phone constantly also, and I use the All Trails app, which gave me very good direction the whole time. So I don't think we ever really got very lost with that app, but without my phone, I would have been in trouble.
Yeah, it's really the Saints way where you need location tracking. With the Southwest Coastal Path, like I said, make sure you have water on one side or the other. So, I mean, other than that, yes, it is more difficult because, especially just as you were approaching Polruan in the Lantiglos area, it just starts going up and down, like, it's fairly steep repeatedly. So, but other than that, it's easier because I didn't have to have my nose on my phone most of the time.
Other questions or comments for Debra from anybody?
Debra, Harry here. Just thank you for sharing with us. That was fantastic. So appreciate you putting in all that work and sharing your journey with us.
Oh, thank you for saying that. And again, thank you to CAHS for the travel grant. This was, I mean, if I conveyed 1% of how exciting and educational and everything this was, then I'll be happy. But it was great. And I'm going back. Like Jane said in the first travel grant presentation, you'll want to go back. Yeah. More hiking.
Other questions or comments from anybody?
Hi, I have one comment. Thanks so much, Deb. That made me really laugh. I could picture the bird looking through as you're eating at the table and all the other funny things. I'm sorry it rains so much, but that's just the way it is. And it does make you want to go back because I've been to Loo and all those places and the island and yes. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Nancy.
Hi, Deborah. It's Marion here.
Hi, Marion.
You can probably see that my husband's in the background making sausages, and I'm listening to you, and I'm on duty there as well. But so you mentioned that you went off the track a little bit and you stayed in different places. If you had stayed in, were there places recommended that you would have stayed in otherwise? And
Oh, thanks for that question. What my real goal was every time I chose accommodation. So this trip was actually took a lot of time to plan because I had so many things that boxes to check off. I wanted something that was in one of my ancestral villages that was of an age that it would have been there at that time. And a lot of the times I was successful. But if that didn't happen, then I just picked a really, really interesting, place or, whatever.
well, those, that path, the trail that you took is very close to where I grew up. I grew up in Plint. I don't think you were close to Plint because you went to Loo. And did you go to Talent when on your walk? Is
Yeah,
Talent?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And I know you've hiked along there. And thank you for calming me down about footwear. Maybe you don't even remember that.
I know. What did I tell you? I hope it helped.
Oh, you said that when you did the section that you did, that included Talon, that you just wore Clark's.
Yeah.
And but I did go out and get a new pair of hiking boots, but
And I took
because
a
I
friend
didn't
to,
want, I wanted hiking shoes, not hiking boots, because I
packing.
just,
Well, for packing as well.
yeah, and they're just more flexible. And they're less hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All
And
right.
that's
Oh,
the thing. The problem with the rain, especially the one day that it just poured and poured and poured, I can't wear rain gear when I'm hiking. That's all there is to it. I would see people and they were covered head to toe. But I mean, I don't know how fast they're hiking
well, you
because
can get
it
wetter.
would be like a sauna.
You can get wetter inside than you are on the outside.
Yeah. So I
Okay.
just gave up on my hair and went with it.
It sounds like what a great experience anyway. And you have some lovely stories to share.
Yes,
Mm.
for the rest of my life.
Okay, I'm being called back to sausage winding, so I have to go. But I'm listening.
making me hungry.
I'm going to just turn the video off. But I am listening. So thanks again. Thanks for setting this up.
Leave the video.
Turned it off. Well, I can hear you laughing.
Yeah,
Kind of hard.
yeah.
It's like two things at the same time.
All right. I don't think we have any final comments. So thanks again, Deborah. That was terrific. I'm going to turn off the recording now. Give me one moment.